I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we explore the fascinating world of Holy Joe, prophet, seer, and revelator by Just Judy. This historical fiction novel delves into the life of Joseph Smith, from his early days as a treasure seeker using a mysterious stone to his rise as the founder of a new religion. Join us as we uncover the intrigue, controversy, and charisma behind one of America's most debated religious figures. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put her in the spotlight today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her amazing book. The links are below this interview. Judy, great to see you here today on Spotlight.
Great to see you. Glad to be here.
Tell us why you decided to write this book about Joseph Smith.
Well, I wasn't really originally deciding to write a book.
Mhm.
Although I've always considered myself a writer, I never had aspirations to be an author. I
Mm.
just liked to write and I told campsite stories and things like that. But I did convert to Mormonism at one point in my life. And when you convert to Mormonism, what they teach you is very close to the Christianity I had been raised with. I mean, it sounds very similar. It's not really a wall off base. But as you're in it longer and longer and learn it more and more, I started having a lot of conflicts. So I happened to meet John L. Smith, was a Baptist minister who was out to help people come out of Mormonism. And I certainly was having enough conflicts. Something had to happen. Sandra Tanner and her husband did wonders as far as keeping the history that would have been hidden away from non-believers, the actual factual history. She had reproduced that in books that I could buy. And therefore, I ended up at one point with five banker boxes of this kind of research material of what happened at the beginning. And once I laid that all out, I wanted to tell the story to the world. That was the first time I had something I wanted to say to the world. So it took me a long time. I did a lot of spreadsheets. I did a lot of character sheets. And now I've gone through this book so many times, I can tell you every incident is real. There is nothing that I've imagined. What's imagined is taking all this factual history. You need your imagination to bring it to life. So you can feel the rain on your face. So you can feel the wet snow on your feet. This is why it's fiction.
Right.
But the incidents and the people, none of them are fiction. They're all supported by history.
Gotcha. Gotcha. He had a fascinating life, starting as a very young man, a teenager. Um, Tell us a little bit about Joseph Smith and what your opinion of Joseph Smith is now that you have left Mormonism.
Well, I see Joseph Smith now as frontier fiction. So I don't see it connected with a church or a belief system anymore. I haven't for decades. It's frontier fiction of people who has this belief system, but I don't feel connected to that belief system anymore. Joseph Smith was raised in a one room cabin in the woods in upstate New York. No education. What, 6, 7 people in the house? I don't forgot how many sisters and brothers he had. He roamed the woods, and he had a magician, Walters, taught him everything he knew. So that's why he was into magic and seer stones. They had camp fireside discussions at home where the father would tell of his vision. So the father had visions too, but the father was against all religion. Everybody else was pretty much confused about religions because there's so many religions and they all seem like they're warring against each other. And then the mother, Lucy, she went to church regularly. So he's come up in this environment of magic, the whole world not sure why we have so many religions. His father against all religions. That's where he came from. the hills that lay consecutively one to the other were said to be burial sites for the Indians. So Joseph also always had some tales of Indians. He was a storyteller. He had a great deal of imagination. Why did it become a religion? Partly because, it's not all Joe. It's people kept going after Joe. People wanted his stone. People wanted him to find things. People wanted to see what was below the earth. I think at one point he just gave in to them. But then, he had his angelic visitations and people wanting to see, the people wanted to hear it. It's not just what he wanted to give, it's also what they wanted to hear. It was a two-sided thing. I need more questions from you.
Yeah, was it tough for you to leave the church? Did they make it difficult?
I say that going into Mormonism was a warm embrace. Coming out of Mormonism was like going through 5 brick walls. Did they make it difficult? No, but I think you have to understand that it is a cult. After I was in there for a couple of years, I remember a day that I looked out and I saw that I was on the inside and everything else was on the outside. So it's just something emotional that happens when you're in a cult, is you are in a cult. You don't just walk out of a cult.
Right.
So that's what writing the book did for me. It enabled me to come out.
What was the most surprising thing you learned about Joseph Smith during your research?
Well, I think about Joseph Smith, I don't know what was the most surprising. The thing that surprises me both every time I read this is how much it wasn't just Joseph Smith. It was the other people that were always after him, begging him for more, that he was just really trying to make a people pleaser, trying to make people happy.
Yeah.
Of course, there were always those who were against it too. As he progresses, what surprises me is how, there's Joseph Smith, the young man. Then there's the development of the church. And then there's Far West, which was a short time of a lot of conflict. And the ending. And the ending, Joseph took more and more wives. They did practice polygamy. His first wife was just somebody he found in the barn. I mean, it was not a wife. It was not a match. There was no ceremony before he was caught. And then came polygamy, the idea of polygamy. Oh, it was the Lord that wanted me to do it. So the progression, if you follow him in the 4th, as he starts telling more and more stories about as man is, God once was. As God is, man may become. You too may become a God. What surprises me is the people who bought it. There are some people who said, this is baloney, and went home and forgot about it. Some people said, this is baloney, but I'm threatened by you, so I'm going to come and get you, and I'm part of the mob. But there were plenty of people who bought it.
And people who still follow it devoutly today.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. What do you hope readers take away from your book?
Well, I think that every reader that reads my book is going to come from their own space and time, their own background, their own culture. So they're going to see it through their own eyes. What I feel fiction does is it takes you back to another time and broadens your horizons. So that's what I want them to leave the here and now, go back and feel the snow, go back and smell the horses. I want them to go there. And my reviewers say that I do that very well. So it's taking you to a different point of time and bringing you back aware of something you didn't know before.
Hoping that people who read this book walk away feeling that Mormonism is not a true religion? Do you hope they walk away feeling that Joseph Smith was kind of a con man? Or what's the spin that you hope that they take away from the religion?
Joseph being a con man, I think you could say Joseph was a con man, but I think Joseph was also conned. And at one point, after I did all my research, I determined there's 2 kinds of Mormons: those who are deceived and those who deceive. It's that simple. You either, that. But I'm not hoping anybody takes away any particular thing. They'll take away it's going to just depend so much on who they are.
Exactly.
But
If you're a Mormon, you might be offended by it,
a
right?
Mormon would never read this because they're not going to read fiction, number one, and they won't read anything it tells too much the secular history. The Mormons will only read the ecclesiastical history. So I don't think a Mormon would read this unless they're on the edge and they're coming out.
Coming out.
Then they would have good information.
Yeah.
But I think Christians can get a lot out of it too. It's just, some of it's just fun. It's frontier fiction.
It's also fascinating. I mean, it's not all fiction. Like you said, a lot of it is the reality of Joseph Smith's life, right?
Yeah. In that respect, none of it's fiction. It's all founded in secular history.
Right.
It is fiction because imagination was used to bring it to life.
Wonderful.
So the writing process is fictionalized.
Yeah.
And that's what sets it up. There's tons of books about Joseph Smith and all the characters, but there are none fictionalized where you can just go in one short, 3-day read, however it takes you to read a book. You're going to understand it from beginning to end. There's no other place where you can find that.
Absolutely. Amazing. Well, you did a great job with this book. It is called Holy Joe, Prophet, Seer, and Revelator. It is an historical fiction novel that delves into the life of Joseph Smith from his early days as a treasure seeker using a mysterious stone to his rise as the founder of a new religion. It is well researched, it is well written, and it is certainly intriguing. Judy, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you.
Thank you. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.